Painters Clubhouse, Yard Art. I'm here Sunday afternoon, 7 o'clock. I guess it's kind of Sunday evening. Ready to paint some witch legs. My little dog's gonna bark. I may have to put him up, but he's hearing them thunder. I'm outside painting, so I hope the rain doesn't catch us. But I'm under a patio cover, so maybe it won't. But anyway, we're gonna paint some witch legs tonight, and I'll hold one up. They're big. They're very big. This is the purple boot one. But you can see how big they are. They're gonna make such a statement in the yard. It's gonna be so much fun to have these out in the yard. I did 2 different color combinations for you. A purple boot and a green boot. There's the green boot. Coming up that leg. When I put the iPad down lower so that you can see my painting table, we'll talk about them just a little bit more, but they're big. They're very easy to paint. There's lots of open space, I guess you'd say. There's not a lot of tiny space that you have to work on, but they're a fun one to paint. You'll see in the background, I put a spell on you. That's going to be the next live that I'm going to do in 2 weeks. So if you haven't gotten that blank yet, it is so much fun to paint. Now, it takes a while, but it is really fun. These witch legs go pretty fast. I'm going to tilt it down. I'm going to go around and sit down so that you can see my work table and you can hear me, but maybe you won't see me as much. Tilt it down. There we go. Okay, I'm going to show you the paint that I used first so that you can choose your own colors of paint, but this is the one that I used. It's you know, strictly up to you what you're going to use. It's just a suggestion, but you can add your colors in at any time. But I use lots of the lime green, number 10, and to shade the lime green, I use number 12, the dark green. Then I used yellow for shading too. I didn't use much yellow, just a tiny bit of yellow. I used the asterisk orange, number 18, and I shaded it with the red orange, number 19. Then for most of the purple, I used number 28, the shading purple, but to shade with it, I used a lighter purple, the number 27. Then I did use just a touch of the gray, which is number 24. I didn't use much, just a touch of the gray. Of course, highlighted it with white. Used quite a bit of the black, number 37. White was 35. And then I wanted these buckles, I wanted them to be gold. You could do them yellow, and I think it would work just as well. But Ashley and I had been talking about it, and I had wanted some gold when I was doing the Nutcracker. And she found this gold Outdoor Living Americana Deco, and it's exterior paint. And she found this at Hobby Lobby. So I got the gold in that. Have not tried it outside yet in the rain to see how it does, but it does say it's exterior. And so after you poly coat it, it should be all right, but you wouldn't have to get this gold. You could certainly use the yellow. So I'll set these aside, and I'll get out the base coated ones. And I already turned my stake around to put them in the yard because I wanted to see how they looked in the yard. They look fantastic. But when you get them, they have the stake put where it's not extending out, and then you just undo these nuts and turn it around. You need to take it off when you base coat the back side. But while I was painting them, I left it on because it kept it above my table surface, so I didn't get as much paint on my table, and I was able to paint the edges much easier. I'm going to start on the green one and show you how I shaded the green. The green boot, let's see, I did the green boot, a purple part of the sock, an orange, a black, a green, a purple, an orange, a black. It really doesn't matter which way you do them. That's just kind of up to you. But to base coat them, any combination, any way will be fine. Get me a little paper towel here. And I'm going to get my paper plate that I work on. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you how I shaded the green, because I used my lime green, my dark green, and my yellow. I'm going to take a little bit of the lime green, and I'm going to put it on my paper plate. I didn't take a lot. It does not take a lot. About 2 brushfuls is all that you really need. Now, while I've got this green on my brush, I kind of patted some of it off. I'm going to go right along this edge and just paint that green so it's a little bit wet. Just right along that edge. And the color's not going to show up because this part's already dry. But I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to put the yellow right on top of that green that's already wet. And then when I go over it a couple of times, it's going to blend together and it's going to just give me a lighter yellow. And I just go over it 2 or 3 times and I get it to blend right into my green. And if it doesn't want to blend, you can take just a touch of the green from your plate and go right along the edge. So I've got a lightly shaded area at the top, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing at the bottom. It's already dry, so I'm just going to put just a line of my green, then touch my yellow on the brush. Doesn't take a lot of yellow. And I just put it right on top of that green and then go over it 3 or 4 times with my brush, and it just starts blending in. And then I'll pick up a little green to put right along the edge. So before long, you've got this ombre. It's not hard to shade at all with this ombre look. So let's go down. While I've got green on here, we're going to go down to my boot. And I want to do the same thing along the edge of the boot right here. I'm going to put a little bit of green. And I think a lot of people think shading is really hard to get this even shading. Let's put it like that. But if you put that base coat color down first, and then just take a tiny bit on your brush and put it right on top, and let the brush do the blending right along that edge, and that just shades in. Now I wanted to shade in down the heel a little bit. That heel will highlight a little bit. Come right in here so that this shading blends together. And take a little bit of green right along the edge so that I blend that in with the green. And then you've got that heel area shaded. I want to shade along the buckle area. So I'm gonna, the top of the buckle will be lighter and down slightly. So I put my green on there so that I've got wet paint. And then when I take my yellow, come right on top. Maybe just a little more yellow. And I found that this paint will dry down not as bright as it looks when it's wet. That way you don't, you may have to come back and add a little bit of yellow if you find that it's too light. You may want to come back and add a little yellow in just to lighten it up a little bit after it's dry. A couple of times I found that I needed to add me just a touch more yellow. Okay, I'm going to take, to continue shading on my boot or shoe. It's not really a shoe, I guess. It's more of a boot. I got to turn this around so I can see it this way. Just a minute. I'll get it where you can see it. Okay. I'm going to take my dark green, shake it up. I want to come along the toe, come down the edge of my boot, across in front of the buckle. So I get that shading, that part in right like that. Later I'm going to come along and shade the bottom part too, but I don't want to get my hand in it, so I'm going to leave that for right now. Now I wanted my shoe to have creases in it. So the first crease is going to come down right here. So that's why I made it a little longer than the buckle. The CDC cut line stops right here at the end of the buckle, but I just brought this down just slightly more. And then I wanted the toe to come down, and where it starts curving here, I brought me another crease in. So I had where the toe would bend, I guess you'd say. So right in that dip, bring another crease in. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to shade right under my buckle here and down here with my green, my dark green. I want to shade on this side. This is not dry enough yet for me to put that green, that dark green, or it would blend. So I'm going to stop. I'll later come back and put a little bit. I want a small line, so I'm just using the tip of my brush to get this small line right here. I don't want a lot of shading behind that buckle because it's a pretty small area. So I don't want to take it up with too much shading. But that buckle is going to cast a little bit of shadow. Okay, then to let this dry, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to shade right along the sole. And I can't see your comments, so I'll have to come back and answer them after the video. But if you have any comments, go ahead and ask them, and I'll come back in after the video's over and answer your comments for you. All right, so while that is drying, I'm going to go back up here to my knee because I've got green on my brush. So I'm going to get it where you can see it good. I don't have it there. Let's see. There we go. That's pretty good right there. Okay, I want to come down from the top. I'm going to come all the way down here, but then I want this knee to curve in. So when it curves, I'm just going to come on around and just make a big C shape. Come on around. Then I'm going to come down on this side get that shading in. And I want an indentation in the back of her knee, so it looks like that knee is bent a little more. So I'm just taking this shading green, this dark green, I'm just putting a little triangle there. Feathering the edges just slightly. So it makes it look like that's the indentation of the knee. Okay, well, I'll wash my brush, I'll let this dry. While this is drying, I'll work on the shading of my orange. So I've got my asterisk orange and my red orange, and I'm going to need my yellow again. Because I did the same type shading on that orange just like I did on the green. I put just a little line of orange, and you have to be kind of careful not to get it in that polka dot that's right there, because that polka dot is kind of in the way. So I couldn't use a bigger mop brush. I had to use a smaller one because of that. But I've got that orange on there. So then I'll take just a touch of the yellow, doesn't take much, and start coming along this edge with my yellow. And just go over it so it blends. Alright, and you're going to do exactly the same thing down at the bottom. I'll take a little bit of my asterisk orange, go right along that cut line from the CDC cutter. Makes it so easy that those lines are there. And take just a touch of yellow and come right along that line and just blend it in. And it blends really evenly. Okay, we'll come up to the top. I'll do exactly the same thing here at the top that I did at the bottom. Take some of my asterisk orange. Right along that top line. Not getting into where my polka dots are. Take a little bit of yellow. I'm dipping right into this paint, and the reason I am is because there's hardly any paint left in this jar. I have used it almost completely up. If it was a fresh jar, I wouldn't do that. I'd put it out on a paper plate, but because it's almost used up, I'm getting the last little dregs of it that are down in the bottom. I'm taking my asterisk orange and blending it down. Okay, we'll come along the bottom of this one with my asterisk orange. A touch there. Okay, I'll take some yellow. I think when you do this extra blending along these edges, it gives your work more 3-dimension, and it just looks real cool. These stockings, these witch stockings need to be cool. Okay, now I took my red orange, and my red orange, I need to shake that one up, number 19, and it doesn't take a lot, but I put it, kind of wipe my brush off on my plate a little bit just to get the excess. I don't wash it. I took some red, and then right here in the very middle, and kind of in a curve, because the leg is curved, so the stocking is going to be curved. I add this red orange. Now, I want that to blend, so I'm going to take my asterisk orange and go along the edge of it and just go back and forth and blend it right there on the leg. Just a little touch of asterisk orange right along the edge. And it just blends in right along. So that's your three colors, and it's just blended in. So I'll go down here to the other stocking. I've already got the orange part on there, the lighter part, so I want my red to blend. I'll put a little asterisk orange on there, area to blend it into. And then I'm going to take my red. Blend that in, and as you go over the edges, they blend together. So it makes it very, very easy to blend. An extra drop on it there. If you like the way it blends, and just keep brushing back and forth. Then it blends in, and you have this nice brighter center part. Now, at this same time, if this was dry, you can take your red orange and you can come down here. It may work. Yeah. And use it along your edge like you did your dark green. You're going to use this right along the edge so that you have the shading on the edge. And I like this color shading on the edge. Sometimes I come back and shade black on the edge. It just kind of depends on how I want it to stand out. But I have to make that decision at the end rather than as you're working on it here. There, I've got my shading on both of those. I did the same thing on the purple. I used my shading purple and my light purple. So it's just kind of like this needs shaking up, like the yellow in reverse. A big clump. So I'm going to take my shading purple. I like this color. It's a really bright, pretty purple color. I come right along that edge and then just a touch of light purple. And then just blend them together. And this is pretty close together. So I put my shading purple on the bottom edge. Got a dot of orange right there, I'll cover up. And then just a little bit of the purple, the light purple. And just let it shade together. And then take your dark purple right along the edge. If you get it too wide, I thought that was a little wide. And then you've got that shaded in. come down here to the sock. Here, I want to do the same thing around here. I'm going to shade this in with a little bit of my lighter lilac purple. This is light purple number 27. And I want to come right across here. Just pat my brush off, get some more of my purple, and come right along that edge, fade that in a little bit more. It was a little too strong, the light was. Just like that. The black I did not do any shading to at all. However, I did use the gray along my boot heel because you're going to have two different areas of the boot. This is the inside part of the boot, and this is the outside heel part of the boot. So this needs to be slightly lighter than the other side. So I took some of my gray and my black, and I didn't want it real light, so I just took a little bit of the gray, not much gray at all, and then my black, and I mixed those. You can see here, I mixed those together until I got a charcoaly color, I guess you would say. I wanted it pretty dark, but not black. So then I painted in the heel, so you start seeing some 3-dimension in the heel. Now, you could leave it just like that, and it would be fine. But if you want to take your black and on the edge, come in here, and then shade in a skosh darker right along the edge. And that gives you a little bit more detail for that heel. And then when you put your white highlight on it, it really starts standing out. Now I see an edge here I didn't get of my black, so while I'm down there, I'm going to touch the edge. You always want to make sure that you have all of those edges covered. Okay. On my black dots, I used the gray as a highlight. I'll put that while I've got the gray out. I just put a comma on them. Now, I will come back later and I will outline with my script liner around these black dots when all of this is dry. Now on this one, I'm still letting that boot dry before I put the shading in the boot. I took my script liner, get where you can see this really green. And it may or may not be thin enough in the container. You may need to put it in a cup. This one is pretty thin. So I got quite a bit. I wanted big swirls. I wanted them big. So I start in the center, make a little half circle. And let the brush do that circle for you. If you find there's not enough, like right there, there's not quite enough paint, you can just re-dip and just go over just that part right there. Not quite enough paint right there. So you can come back and go over those areas that you don't think are quite smooth enough. But I like it kind of thick and thin. So I filled this whole area with these spirals using this script liner. Start out with a small C. And sometimes you can go all the way around, and sometimes you have to go halfway. And it's not quite dark enough, so come in, put a little more paint back in there. May want one to come off the edge. And if you hold your brush upright, sometimes that makes it a little bit easier if your brush is kind of upright. And this is the script liner, and this one is the number 4, the smaller script liner. Because I wanted these to be kind of delicate, I guess you'd say. Let me put my arm in it. Pretty good like that. Falling off. So you see the spirals there. Now come down here, it's a smaller area, so I want the spirals to be smaller and tighter. Pretty good. Maybe one right in here that balance that out a little bit. Okay. That's good enough. All right, let's see if this is dry enough down here. I think so. I'm gonna show you how to shade the boot right down here. I'll wash my script liner out because I'm going to use it again in a minute. Okay, I want to put there we go. Okay, I want to get it lighter. This area of your boot is poked up, I guess you'd say. The foot has bent it and it's made it come up higher. So that needs to be lighter in color. So I'm going to take my yellow, and I did it just like I did before. I put a little green on there first where I wanted to shade it in. And then I'm going to touch my yellow to it. And I want to blend this in. Just like that. I've got it a little too wide right here. So I'm going to come in with my green and put green right on top of it and bring that up so it's not white. And then shade that in, just blend that in. So I'm going to take my green, I want to do the same thing right here. I'm going to put my yellow. Completely to the toe. I want yellow clear to the toe because the toe is turned up, so I want it to be lighter at the top of the toe. So I'm just taking my yellow and I'm putting it in that green that I already had down there. I want to add just a little yellow streak right here on this the buckle there. And that's how I put that on there. Now we're going to come up to the knee. We're going to do the same thing to the knee. I'm going to come in here for the knee and I'm going to put some of my green down. It's going to curve around just like a kneecap in a big circle, semicircle. And then I'll pick up just a little bit of yellow. Start adding that yellow in. So that'll blend a little bit easier. I'll take my green, come right along the edge of it with my regular green. And that blends it in. So now you have this kneecap bulging out. And I wanted polka dots. I like polka dots. I wanted polka dots on the kneecap, and I wanted them in black. So, the way I always do small little polka dots, just take the end of my brush, and I didn't want them real close together. But just usually can't get more than 2 dots at a time. Just a random pattern. There's no rhyme or reason where to put them. Just anywhere you want one. Now, even though this is not dry, I can still get some dots in there. Usually I'd wait for it to dry because I think it's easier and better when it's dry. But this is going on there pretty good. Being kind of gentle, trying not to pick up any of that yellow paint that's under there. Okay, that's pretty evenly spaced. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to pick up my other one and show you where I highlighted on this witch leg. So I'll pick this one up and move it. And then on my finished one, I didn't show you, but I put along the sole, I put a line of the gray along the sole because I think the sole's a little thick, black looking if you don't break it up just a little bit. So I put a pretty thick line of the gray. Then I highlighted white. I highlighted white on the heel, but you can see how that heel goes 3-dimension now when you have the gray here, and then it's just black here. And you've got a CDC line here so that you can see exactly where you need to stop with that gray. But I highlighted white on the heel. Then on my boot, a white highlight on the heel, one right under where it goes in the shoe, and then right along those curves. Got a big highlight here, a smaller one there, touch of black here, black here along this top of the shoe where it comes up, little highlight there, little white highlight there. Then on my purple part, I did a black here where your ankle kind of would come in there, and then a white highlight and a long white highlight there. Another one on the opposite side. I highlight the edge of the knee in here, a black highlight at the top, a white one along this purple here, and then 2 big white ones on both sides. Put them on opposite sides, so if you've got one white highlight over here, then you come on the opposite side and down a little bit to get your other one. Same thing here. I put a white in the center, so then I took my black and put it over here on the edge. And I did outline this one along the edge in black. So, and I put a black highlight right under that green in the knee. When you're doing this white highlight here and you've got this CDC cut line, you need to come back and dab just a little bit of white paint in there so that it easily covers over. And that's the green one all done. The one thing I'm going to show you on the purple one, it's the same exact technique that I did with the green one. I just did purple shading with my white highlights, and on my green I put a lot of dots low, and as I came up the leg I put fewer dots. I think when I put these in, I decided they were probably a little bit too much, too many dots in there, but I already had them and I thought, well, I'm not going to change it. So as it came up, I just made the dots further apart as they came up. And these had orange circles, so I put a lighter orange on one side of each circle and then a white highlight for the orange circles. But here I did stripes. And the one thing on the stripes, with your script liner, I started in the center. And the reason being, it's wider here than it is here. So if you get your first one in the center done, and you pull, Mary was doing this yesterday in her video, but you use your body to pull, not your arm. But you lean forward and pull back with your whole body, you'll get those stripes even. And I did them all on one side, then turned it around and did the other side. But you have to space them out a little wider here and a little narrower here as you're making those stripes come up. You don't have to put the stripes. You could put big circles up here if you feel more comfortable doing that. You could do any kind of design. I think you just need some kind of extra texture to make it really come alive. But I like the idea of the stripes. But just pull with your body. Don't try to do them with your hand, but pull with your body, and that'll get your stripes on there. And the same highlights, the white, opposite on each side. I didn't put as much black on this one because this one turned out a lot darker with all this heavy purple. So I didn't do nearly as much black. I did a heavier black line here because my purple is shaded lighter, but I wanted a heavier line so that that knee area kind of stuck out. And on this black, I shaded with the gray. So you can see that I've got a lighter gray along the edge. And again, I just put the black down, took my gray on top of it. But I believe you'll have a fun time doing these. I think they're going to be fantastic in the yard when you put them upside down and you stick them in with this part sticking out of the grass, and you've got these two big legs sticking out of the yard. I think they're going to be fantastic. But if you have questions, I'll answer them just as soon as I get off the video. And I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I painted the witch legs. I hope you all will paint some, and then you will post what you've painted. I really enjoy seeing everybody's post of what they've painted, because it's lots of fun to see how you choose to make it your own. But good evening. It's getting hot out here. The breeze has gone away, so I'm glad to have you paint with me tonight. See you next time. Bye-bye.